The 3M dry sanding system is actually what I consider like one of the safest sanding systems out there, and especially if you're brand new to sanding. One of the cool things about this system is you can use it by hand or machine. They make these in sheets. This is the 3000 6-inch disc, and they make these in sheets too that you can actually attach or hold on to with a backing pad, hold on to it by hand and just rub, and you can actually sand that way. But the optimum way, for me at least, is to go ahead and machine sand using a DA sander. The 3M Trizact, they come in 3000, 5000, and all the way up to 8000. I have the 3000 and 5000, and I got to tell you, if you're using any kind of quality abrasive technology, you're going to pull 5000 grit out super, super easy. In fact, I did a little test on this. I pulled out the 3000 using a free spinning random orbital polisher. I didn't even have to use the rotary polisher. So anyway, so this is the system. Now, this car has a custom paint job. And since it's a light metallic gold color, I've been told this is a PT Cruiser color, actually. But I don't know if Yancey can pick up the orange peel. We'll give him a chance when we get going here. But this has never been sanded. It's never been buffed. It has a little bit of DIP, which is dirt in paint. We covered that with the black Corvette over there last week. And it also just has orange peel.
I'm going to try to show some
orange peel?
Yeah. Oh.
It might work better just using the overhead lights.
There it is. Yeah. Look where the light is at. You see the orange peel on that one. Then if we go over to here.
That one's really bad.
Now that one, yeah. They're not supposed to be fuzzy, people.
Yeah, those lights should be clear and distinct. This is a Flex cordless DA. It's a 1.6 millimeter throw, so it's what you'd call a finishing sander, but my experience is for at least the things and the kinds of cars we're working on, it actually works great. And these also come in 3-inch discs. Here's a 3-inch 5000 or 3-inch 3000. And so these also work really good with the Flex Pixie. And of course, I like to use the 6 millimeter drive unit on there. Gives you the perfect balance of good sanding disc rotation and able to sand within a thumbnail distance of any raised body line or edge. Anyway, so let me just kind of walk through the process then. So I've already attached a 3000 disc on it. Let me pull it up because I want to show you this is the interface pad. And it's important to use the interface pad because it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to smooth out the sanding action that you'll feel just holding the tool. It also enables the sanding disc to conform to the contours of the body panels. Now the 3M Trizact discs, they do have a foam backing. It's very thin. I probably guess that's about a 1/16 of an inch. So the foam interface pad gives you just a little bit more cushion, again, just to follow the contours of the body panels. And like any time you're sanding, machine sanding, it's important to perfectly center up the sanding disc so that no part of the interface pad comes into contact with the paint. Then the way this works is you want to take some clean water. You can put a drop or two of some soap in there. You don't want to do too much. You know, recently, Yancey had a guy standing in a boat, and he called me up and says, "Mike, the sanding's just not working." And I says, "Well, what are you using?" He explained everything. And he's using Merca Abralon on a cordless Sea Beast, a Flex Beast, cordless Beast. And I says, "Well," I just said instinctively, "How much soap did you put in your water?" And he says, "I put a lot in there. I wanted it to be good and lubricated." And I says, "Well, try mixing just like 1 or 2 drops." He called me back in about a half hour and says, "Hey, that was the trick." So what he did is he made the surface so slippery, the sanding paper couldn't bite the surface, or the sanding just...
Hydroplaning.
It was hydroplaning, yeah. So you just want to put some water down, a few sprays. You don't want to get too much. Maybe a squirt right onto the face of the disc as you're starting out. And then it's really just kind of like I demonstrated last week. You want to use, anytime you can use a crosshatch pattern, you want to use a crosshatch pattern. That ensures what's called UMR, Uniform Material Removal. And uniform material removal is what results in uniform appearance. You know, your paint looks the same all the way over the car because you removed the same amount of paint, or refined any deeper scratches the same amount. And then, of course, overlap by about 50%. So let me just go ahead and demonstrate that real quick here. Now, this is on speed setting too, and I got pretty good setting disc rotation. I'm going to bump it up to for 3. Now I've got a little bit better sanding disc rotation. Now the crosshatch. Here's 4 solid section passes. Turn this thing off, and you can see the clear coats coming off. So this is called your slurry. And anytime you abrade something clear like glass or clear coat paint, you notice it turns white or opaque. Then you just want to come in here and wipe that off. Now, you're going to see a very, very flat, uniform surface. And I can already tell just by looking at this, the lights are going to be more distinctive in the reflection when we look at that.
Oh, that's a bad color.
It's really a bad color for you to capture. Black's always the best. But
you can see the Dr. Beasley's there in the middle of your screen, and you go up, and then it disappears.
Okay, so now, you know, in the real world, if you wanted to, this would pull out real easy with a wool pad, you know, something like this. I mean, this would, you wouldn't even have to struggle to pull that sanding mark out. I'm going to pull it out. I've already pulled it out. I did a little test spot using the Griot's G9 with the foam cutting pad and the Dr. Beasley's NSP 150. But just to demonstrate, I'm going to go ahead and refine this to 5,000. And this is what the students are going to learn when they're here for the class this weekend. And again, center this up. This is a brand new disc. And let's see if we can capture any more gloss or clarity after 5,000.
All right.
Okay, so again, just a mist of water onto the disc. One spritz of water right there, and then the same kind of overlapping pattern. Four solid section passes there. And how many section passes you need to do to level the orange pill or to remove the surface texture that's apparent in the paint is something you just have to kind of experiment with. Wow, I can see the individual bulbs in the LED overhead now.
Back that way a little bit.
Sure.
No, the other way. And yeah, you can definitely see the Dr. Beasley's starting to come back up.
Yeah, it's starting to gloss up already. But one thing I want to mention, like some people ask me, how many section passes, how many times you got to go over the surface? Well, it just depends on how hard the paint is. So the harder the paint is, the more section passes you're going to have to make in order to remove the orange pill, to basically abrade enough material to remove the orange pill or any surface texture or DIP or even fish eyes.
So the red one, you're going to do a lot of passes.
Yeah, but you know, I would say in most cases you're going to be into the 4 to 8 section passes. From what I have experienced so far, I would say this paint is on the medium side. It's not hard, it's not soft, but it's right there in the sweet spot where all of us detailers really like the paint to be something we can work with.
You should nickname that Goldilocks syndrome.
Yeah, the Goldilocks syndrome. Okay, so I'm going to set this over here, and I just want to go ahead and demonstrate what I'm talking about when I'm saying the Pixie's good for getting into thin areas.
Oh, let me get you back.
So
on
here's
this
the
camera.
Yeah, here's the Flex PXC 80, or the Pixie. And again, I've got an interface pad on here. This is the Eagle abrasives. I like their little micro hooks. That it works really good when you're using the sanding disc. It doesn't really matter with this type of sanding disc because of the foam backing. But again, center that up so no part is touching. And then what I'm going to do is, if you look up here, these are little opening cowl vents, and they just let air flow in when you open them up. But that is just a nice little thin size, and here's a little thin panel here. And this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's so nice to have a smaller disc so you can get in and you can sand these other areas. I'm going to bump this up to the 4.
And that way they're not going up on edge, possibly running the edge of the paper in and drawing the paint.
And same thing over here. Look how convenient this is. I can never get a 6-inch disc on here.
See, it goes back to having the right tool for the job.
3,000, look at the slurry, cutting really fast. And then, of course, refine with 5,000. I'm going to let the students take care of that. And I don't want to do too much here because I don't want to rob the students of the blessing of attending this class and, like me, the first time they've ever sanded and buffed a 41-gram Hollywood, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so then after you've done the sanding, of course, you would finish out the entire vehicle. Then you're going to come back, and normally, in fact, for my class, I'll probably have the guys use a wool pad and a rotary polisher, mostly because it's so much faster than using a free spinning or even a gear-driven orbital polisher. But the most important thing that rotaries come in handy for when taking out sanding marks is it's really easy in a big flat area here to use an orbital polisher pull sanding marks out. I mean, anybody can do that. The trick is when you start getting next to edges or thin body lines, you know, orbital polishers just are not the most effective way, because with the rotary, you can just go up on edge. Boom. There's no pad stalling. You can pull that sanding mark out. So that's why I'm kind of a big fan for this. But I wanted to demonstrate that I can pull these out using orbital, because I just wanted to do a shout out to my good friends at Griot Garage. They sent us some brand new polishers for our detailing classes. So I just want to do a shout out to Rod Craft and everybody at Griot's. Thank you for sending us these polishers. So I'm going to unbox them before the class starts, and they'll get into the hands of all the students. Okay, so this is the G9. This is actually one of the very first ones ever built. My longtime friend Doug Hodge sent this to me. And I got a foam. It's a Lake Country HDO foam, light blue foam cutting pad, Dr. Beasley's NSP 150. And I am literally going to put 3 pea-sized drops on here for that big old patch of sanding marks.
Okay.
Yancy, I've gone over this section one time, and it is almost perfect. Not quite, but that was one time going over it with the Dr. Beasley's NSP 150 spherical abrasive technology and a foam cutting pad on a free spinning random orbital polisher. Let me do like 3 more, and then we'll take a look at it.
All right.
Really good pad rotation. If you're new to machine polishing, the Griot's G9 is actually a great first tool to start out with.
Can't go wrong with a lifetime warranty.
Yeah, it's a quality tool, and when
Powerful.
it comes, what's that?
It's very powerful.
It's got a lot of power to it. Yeah, I mean, look at that.
Let's go look.
That is sanded and buffed, and we could amp up the clarity and gloss by going to the NSP 95 and a soft foam polishing pad. But again, I'm going to let the students take care of this. I probably won't let them sand this area too much more, but now the clarity difference, or what they call the DOI, the distinction of image. So a mirror, when you look into a mirror is 100% DOI. And that's what you're looking for when you're sanding paint. That's the whole reason we sand paint. We want to sand it to flatten down the level, the orange peel, any surface texture, any other kind of defects like DIP, and even sometimes you can eliminate some of the fish eyes that you might see in the paint. But you want to get it as flat as you can, and when you polish it out, the reflections are accurate, and they look like you're looking into a mirror, and that's where we get the term a mirror finish. So that is the 3M Trizact damp sanding system. Again, to me, one of the most important things about it is if you're new, like say you're an enthusiast and say you restore a car, 67 Mustang, something you had in high school, it goes to the body shop, it comes out with a fresh paint job, and you want to personally do the sanding work on it, you could start out with a 1500 film disc from 3M or from Eagle Abrasives or even Harbor Freight, and then refine with the 3000, go to 5000. Heck, if you want to go to 8000, go to 8000. The higher you sand, the easier the buffing will be, and that's how you could create a show car finish on your own car at home. And it is important to me to point out 2 things. One, anytime we're teaching classes here, can you pan over just and grab the Corvette and the Model A over there? Anytime we're sanding cars here in our classes, I bring in custom cars with custom paint jobs. We're never here sanding the factory paint, because the factory paint on a new car is thinner than a Post-it note. And you always got to remember, sanding takes off paint, compounding takes off paint, polishing takes off a little paint, but pretty soon you're not going to have anything left. So just as a professional practice, I bring in cars with custom paint. The paint, in fact, this car here, the Model A, I saw the bill. It has had quoted there, add more coats of paint and more coats of clear coat because it's going to go get sanded and buffed. So they knew that car was coming to this class. And then, so that's one point. Only sand factory paint. The other point I want to make is every time you're sanding, when you move to the next grit, you need to make sure you sand enough in the previous areas to totally refine them. Otherwise, when you do come back to pull up the sanding marks, you're going to really struggle because you've got these deeper scratches that you did not refine. So that means you need to focus on the task at hand.
That means no talking on cell phones while you're doing it.
Yeah. And, I forgot this, Yancey. Someone says, hey,
yeah, we did. We forgot that.
You should take paint thickness. It's too late now. We've already sanded here. I did test this before we started, and I zeroed this out. It was 14.8. We're at 14.1, so we removed 0.7 mils through 2 sanding processes and a compounding step. So very, very little paint.